Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving into online gaming communities.
Correct.
Specifically, the subreddit. Wow Circle Jerk? No, this isn't like your typical fan forum or anything. This community, they use satire to comment on the state of World of Warcraft.
Oh.
It's almost like we're holding up a funhouse mirror to the WoW community.
And I like that.
To see what quirky reflections we get back.
Yeah, and you know what they say. Sometimes the most distorted reflections, well, they can reveal the most profound truths.
Exactly. So today we're really going to try and explore the culture of World of Warcraft, but through the lens of this satirical subreddit. What can we learn about the game and its players by decoding their jokes?
That's what we're here to find out. Satire is more than just humor, right? It's a way to express criticism, vent frustrations, and even spark debate, all while making you chuckle.
Here, let's unpack this. One of the top posts that we found starts with this familiar character, they say. As a father of 25 children who works 5 jobs and only plays 2 seconds every month, I am entitled to every single new thing added in the anniversary event. Now, we both know that sounds...
I'm tad exaggerated.
Just a tad. This post is a classic example of how a Circle Jerk uses satire. To poke fun at that, the entitled gamer trope, the player who demands rewards without putting in the time.
Right.
It's a sentiment that resonates with, I think, a lot of players.
Yeah.
Whether they admit it or not.
Yeah, and they really lean into the absurdity with lines like, "How dares Blizzard put things in the game to grind for? I am literally fuming." It's so over the top, it's hilarious. But it also exposes that underlying tension between the desire for instant gratification and then the reality of a game that's designed around playing it.
Yeah. What's fascinating here is that this post is not just a funny meme, right? It's tapping into a deeper anxiety within the WoW community. That fear of falling behind.
Think about it. WoW is constantly evolving. New expansions, raids, gear. It's almost impossible to do everything.
Oh, yeah.
So there's this constant pressure to keep up, which can lead to burnout or resentment.
Totally. And this satirical post, it lets players vent those frustrations in a shared space where it's okay to laugh at the absurdity of it all.
Exactly. It's a way to acknowledge those feelings without turning it into a toxic rant.
Right. And then you have the comments, which are just pure gold. One commenter jokes about disagreeing with the original post because they rigged up, get this, a toilet mini fridge combo to their gaming chair.
Wow.
To grind efficiently.
The lengths. Some players will go to, right, it's like that classic gamer stereotype, but played for laughs, but it also speaks to the dedication. And let's be honest, sometimes obsessive nature of WoW players.
We've all been there, spending hours optimizing our characters, min-maxing our gear, squeezing in those extra dungeon runs. But another comment takes kind of a different approach, suggesting the original poster should try healing, because the queue times are shorter. And they say the real game is transmog anyway.
No, that's an interesting one. First, for those who might not know, transmog is basically, it's WoW's fashion system, right? It lets you change the appearance of your gear without affecting its stats. But what this comment really highlights is it's the diverse ways that people choose to play WoW.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
You have the hardcore raiders who are all about endgame progression, and then you have players who prioritize character customization or role-playing.
Right.
And this comment uses humor to acknowledge those different play styles.
Right.
Without pitting them against each other.
It's like saying, hey, we all love WoW, but we express that love in different ways. And sometimes the most dedicated players are the ones who focus on aesthetics and crafting the perfect look for their character.
So, we've seen how Circle Jerk uses satire to joke about player behavior and stereotypes. But there's a deeper layer here. They're not just poking fun at individual players. They're using humor to critique the game itself.
Exactly. Remember that comment we mentioned about bullshit FOMO grinds?
Oh, yeah.
That's not just a random complaint. It's a pointed jab at how certain game design choices. They can manipulate players' fear of missing out.
And this is where things get really interesting. But we're going to have to dive deeper into that in part 2. The critique of the game itself.
So we've seen how this community uses satire to kind of point out those anxieties that gamers have, these universal anxieties.
Yeah.
That goes deeper than that. They actually use it to dissect, like, some of WoW's core mechanics. It's like they're doing game design analysis, but with memes.
Okay, you got to give me an example.
Yeah.
How are they critiquing the actual game mechanics through humor?
Well, take another comment. From that same entitled gamer thread. It sarcastically complains about how outrageous it is to have to work for rewards in a game you're already paying for.
Ah, the classic subscription entitlement.
Right.
It pops up every time. a new raid or expansion comes out that requires
Yeah.
actually playing the game to unlock rewards.
Exactly. And this comment takes that sentiment, like, to the extreme. The poster pretends to be this super busy businessman who doesn't even have time to log in, let alone understand what's going on in the game. They even joke about having someone else write the comment for them.
Oh, that's good. It's like they're holding up a mirror
Yeah.
to that entitled mindset and saying, look how ridiculous this sounds.
It's a brilliant use of satire. By exaggerating that persona of the entitled subscriber to a comical level, it completely undermines the original complaint.
It reminds me of another comment that criticizes the game for having bullshit FOMO grinds, which, let's be honest, is a feeling a lot of WoW players can relate to.
Absolutely. And remember, this isn't just a vague complaint about FOMO in general. The commenter specifically mentions wanting to collect all the Tier 2 sets and time-walking items in a single week, despite only playing one class.
Which is, of course, impossible, unless you have a time machine
Mm-hmm.
and an army of alts. They're satirizing that gotta-catch-em-all mentality.
Yeah.
That can sometimes, take over in WoW.
Right. It's that feeling of needing to complete everything, collect every item, experience every event, even if it burns you out or takes away from actually enjoying the game.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, hey Blizzard, we see what you're doing with these limited time events and exclusive rewards, and we're on to you. But they're doing it with humor instead of angry forum posts.
And that's what's so fascinating about this subreddit. They're not just complaining, they're using satire to analyze, dissect, and even offer alternative solutions to the game's design.
So they're actually engaging with the game on a really deep level, even if it's through jokes and memes. It's like they're saying, we love WoW, but we're not afraid to call it out
Right.
when it's being manipulative or frustrating.
Exactly. And that level of critical engagement is what makes this community so unique. They're passionate about WoW, but they're also aware of its flaws. And they're not afraid to use humor to highlight those flaws.
So, WoW Circle Jerk is like a pressure valve for the WoW community. It's a place to vent those frustrations, share those anxieties, and maybe even inspire some change, all while having a good laugh.
It's a reminder that even the most dedicated fan communities can benefit from a healthy dose of self-awareness and humor, and that sometimes. The best way to critique something you love is through a well-crafted joke.
It's not just about the game itself, this subreddit also. It gives us a glimpse into the different types of players who make up the WoW community. And we're going to explore that in part 3 of our deep dive. So we've explored how WoW Circle Jerk uses satire to kind of dissect game mechanics and poke fun at those, universal gamer anxieties. What about the people behind the memes? What can we learn about the community itself from these satirical posts?
Yeah, that's the final layer of our deep dive, exploring the culture of WoW Circle Jerk. Is it just a bunch of cynical players complain about the game? Or is there something a little more nuanced going on?
Because, based on what we've seen so far, these aren't just your average forum trolls or anything. There's a level of wit and intelligence in these posts that suggest a much deeper level of engagement with the game.
Exactly. And that's what makes this community so fascinating. It's not just negativity for negativity's sake. It's a form of critical analysis disguised as humor.
So, if we were to step into this virtual tavern, what kind of players would we encounter?
You'd find a diverse group, for sure. Veterans who've been raiding Molten Cores since the early days, alongside newbies who are still figuring out how to manage their talent points.
What brings them together in this specific corner of the internet?
It's the Lechi. It's the shared language of satire. It's a way to bond over their experiences, both the triumphs and the frustrations, to laugh at the absurdity of the game they love while still acknowledging its flaws.
Like a secret handshake. For players who get it, who understand that sometimes, the best way to cope with the grind is to, laugh at it.
And to laugh with each other, because even though they're using satire, there's a sense of camaraderie. In this community, they support each other. Even when they disagree, they get each other's humor.
It's like they've created this safe space where it's okay to express those sometimes contradictory feelings that we all have about WoW. The love, the hate, the frustration, the dedication, all wrapped up in a perfectly crafted meme.
And that's what makes WoW Circle Jerk more than just, a meme factory. It's a microcosm of the WoW community as a whole. It reflects those diverse play styles, the shared history, and that enduring passion for a game that's been going strong for almost 2 decades.
For our listener, what's the key takeaway here? What have we learned by taking this deep dive into this satirical subreddit?
I think the biggest takeaway is that satire can be a really powerful tool for community building. and critical discussion. It allows us to express our opinions, connect with others who share our experiences, and even challenge the status quo.
And sometimes, a well-placed joke can be more effective than 1,000 angry forum posts. Trial Circle Jerk reminds us that it's okay to laugh at the things we love, even as we critique them.
It's about finding that balance between passion and perspective, and recognizing that, even within the most dedicated fan communities, there's always room for humor and self-awareness.
So, the next time you find yourself getting a little too frustrated with Azeroth, or any game for that matter, maybe take a cue from Trial Circle Jerk. Find a way to laugh about it.
Because sometimes the best way to deal with a game we love, but also find frustrating, is to create a meme about it.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Trial Circle Jerk. We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration into the depths of the internet.